Hey everyone, welcome back to the HR Club. I am your host, Shivani Pande, and today we are diving into the nuances of recruitment marketing. What's changed, what challenges persist, and how companies can stand out in a crowded market. To break it all down, I have with me Mariano Aragunde, a seasoned leader who has spent the last decade shaping talent brands for global giants like IBM and Workday. His career has been nothing short of a roller coaster, except it only goes up. From attracting top talent to mentoring early career engineers, Mariano has worn many hats. And today he is here to share his insights. It's a pleasure to have you on the show, Mariano. Welcome to the HR Club.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure.
Likewise, Mariano, it will certainly be a crime if I did not start this chat by first of all asking you, how did your career journey pan out? Because when I learned about your trajectory, I realized you've started off with administration and IT, and you've been in project management, program management. You have transitioned into internal comm and then into recruitment marketing, employer branding, and from there on you went on to leading teams and the entire global efforts for organizations. Would love to know how this whole journey pan out. Was it a natural transition slowly? Did an external influence make this happen? How did it all work out for you?
Well, bit of both, as you mentioned, both in external influence and both naturals. Yes, I started in IT as a sysadmin at IBM, and that was like one of my first jobs. Then, your career, once you are in a company as big as IBM, the opportunities that they can flourish, right? So you're able to choose your own path. Yeah, one thing led to another. Went through some, project management and program management jobs. Kind of like, you're young, you're testing, you want to do bit of everything. And yeah, at that moment, employer branding, talent marketing was something like fairly new, right? It was kind of like a niche team. It caught my eye and I decided to try it out. And I was also proficient. I was one of the very early adopter with social media at that moment, which was something back then quite new, which led me to employer branding, and talent marketing and starting to develop my career in that area. The cool thing was that since most of that is applied to attracting IT talent, right, which is most of the hiring in tech companies. And I was coming from an IT background. Like I could speak both languages, so I could just bridge the cultural gap between like HR, marketing, recruitment, and actual IT. So yeah, honestly, it's all thanks to IBM, because at that moment, again, once you're lucky to be in a company as big as IBM, or call it, I don't know, Microsoft, AWS, whatever, it's a good thing for a young talent to just, explore career opportunities. Yeah. That's pretty much it.
Awesome. Talking about these terms, recruitment marketing, employer branding, one thing I very often observe is people tend to use these interchangeably. I myself would have made that mistake many times. I have to admit it. Can you help us, help our listeners understand how are these both connected? Is it really the same thing? If it is different, how is it different?
Yeah, good. So depends on how big your team is, right? And what are your capabilities? Yeah. So maybe if you're in a small team, you do both things. Employer branding and telemarketing are used interchangeably because those are the resources you have. But technically they're not, right? One is the why, the other one is the how, right? So employer branding, I think it's more related to laying out the strategy, the messaging, the design, the actual employee value proposition, the EVP, which is something like very kind of like industry standard. And that's how you develop, the whole vision for who you are as an employer and how you're going to attract your talent. What is the message, why Mariano should join IBM or any other company. So yeah, that is the why. And telemarketing is the how, is the actual technique, is how you're going to kind of like take this to the ground and how you're going to implement it. And that is more related to actual, marketing theory, which is pretty much the same thing. How you are going, what tech stack are you going to use? What MarTech, marketing technology are you going to use? CRM, email marketing, social media. Okay, what are the tactics? How are you going to segment your audience? What is your budget if you're doing paid media, etc.? So it's more of the execution and the technique right? And yes, some companies quite big, those are two separated disciplines, and you have people taking care specifically of the employer branding and another set of people working on the talent marketing. Smaller teams, they all do the same thing, they all together, right?
Understood. So, in your role, as you grew in your role, let's say with IBM, because that's where you spent significant part of your career journey, what did the approach of the team look like? Was it initially a smaller team? Did the function get established in front of you, or was it there already and you eventually went on to join the team and then scale?
Yeah. So when I joined back then, that IBM team, it was already established. It was not a big team. It was not like hugely, but it was already, the foundations were there already. So I joined leading the Latin America section, right? So there was a global team like coordinating all the efforts, and, just cascading down the strategy and the vision. And then you had like local teams per region executing that, which is pretty straightforward. Implementation 101, I was leading Latin America. You had another team leading, Asia Pacific, another one leading Europe, North America, and so on. So yeah, at that moment, I mean, we did our social media metrics on an Excel spreadsheet because there was no like tool at that moment robust for social media to kind of like take do everything at once. So everyone was very manual, and you learned a lot through that. So that was quite cool. And then eventually, as we moved on, and hiring demand for IBM is just huge. So the team scaled up, and eventually it got divided into different sub teams within that big talent attraction. I was leading, for example, the team that took care of everything digital, right? So, for example, I was owning the careers website, the CRM and ATS integration, job distribution, metrics, all that, like the tech stack. But then you had another team taking care of content and social media. Then you had another team taking care of design and EVP and branding. Another team, sub team. These are small cells of like maybe 2, 3, 4 people, right? And another team taking care of sourcing, right? And then you had as well your local teams, taking this all to the ground. So yeah, eventually grew up so much, and it got so organized. But I had the opportunity to kind of like, see this in a very early stage. Yeah.
Got it. As the function's name itself brings together two of these terms, recruitment, marketing, and those are in themselves two independent functions with one foot in HR and one foot in marketing. According to you, where does recruitment marketing truly belong? Are there any particular challenges of this intersection that you feel?
Yeah, and that I think it's still up for debate. It depends on some companies. So, for example, in my case, we reported to HR. I was under the talent acquisition organizational chart, but did I rely on them for my daily work? Not at all. It was all marketing. I depended on marketing to take care of websites, CRM, social media. Recruitment didn't own any of the tools or any of the daily things. But I will say that even though it's kind of like a 60-40 depending on, your criteria, whether if it's more marketing or more recruitment, I will say that yes, this is something that should depend from recruitment, not marketing. Why? Because interacting with, I mean, in my case, I was always on B2B companies, right? Like IBM or Workday or other ones. But B2B marketing is so different from recruitment marketing, which is like more B2C, right? But you have to be so locked in into the hiring strategy, the hiring demand, which may be very, very different from country to country, from time to time. You all know that, hiring in the US peaks in October, November, for campus hiring season. So you have to be so locked in with the talent that needs to be attracted, the cultural difference. So even though, yes, your daily job will depend more on the marketing side, it all comes down from work. So I agree with that. This is something that is more dependent on recruitment and the talent acquisition strategy that your company has 100%. Yeah.
As a part of your role, have you ever had to recruit yourself
Yeah.
at any point in time? Yeah.
Yeah, I had to recruit my team as well. I remember my last team at IBM was the one conducting the interviews as well, and I helped as well with some local recruitment. So yeah, we all as leaders, as managers, you have to be certified as to interview and to be familiar with the entire TA process. So yeah, I had to interview many times and
Okay.
hire. Yeah.
Sounds good. So I understand you've built your own team, and of course, that puts you in a position where you have to, of course, interview people,
hmm
evaluate them. But as a recruitment marketing professional yourself, do you think somebody who is a recruitment marketing expert also does need to be great at recruitment, or can that be balanced through collaboration with talent acquisition teams?
That's a very odd question. It depends, because I had many colleagues, great colleagues that never hired, and they were great talent acquisition, talent recruitment professionals. So no, I don't think, honestly, based on my experience, yes, it will be good for you to be familiar with your TA processes and your recruitment process for your company. Of course, you need to know how the sausage is made, because you are at the, end top of the funnel. But do you need to actually recruit? I don't think it is a requirement. It's a nice to have, of course, to actually be on the field, but I don't think so.
Okay, sounds good. And that also brings me to the next question, which is so since again you've done recruitment, while I understand it's not a must have for anybody to become an expert in recruitment marketing, it's a good to have if you have tasted that. Maybe you would be able to add a few more quirks in your initiatives. But do you think that there is this one or maybe a few lessons that you collected from recruitment, from your recruitment experience that made you better at recruitment marketing?
Let me see. I think it made me very aware of my own biases when selecting and interviewing talent. I think I was able to let me think my answer. So I think I was able to realize how important was when I got my short list of applicants. Let's say I promoted a job and I got, I don't know, 50 people applying for that job, and then you shortlist them. You say, okay, I'm going to review these profiles, these CVs, and get a top five. You get a sense on why people apply for this job, right? And how did I attract them in the first place, right? How did they get to my job and why did they apply? So I think it's I realize that it's so important to get a quality application, and that depends so much on those little details that you do when you promote your job, not just writing a good job JD, but through which channels do you promote it? How do you promote them? The wording that you use, if you're going to every single little detail matters, right? And you get the feeling. I can see why you apply for this job once you start to interview these people. It's okay, I did a good job promoting this. I think I did it right. And you get the whole thing, from the promotion and distribution of your job to when you actually get to interview the people that apply for that job. You can kind of like feel like, oh, okay, I see what you apply and I see what you hear. I think we're a good match. So I like that part of the experience. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly the answer I was looking for. And on that, that brings me to the point that there's so much collaboration that happens between the recruitment team and the recruitment marketing team. Because unless and until they are working really closely together, it will be hard for both the teams to get their expected results or meet their own individual metrics. So in that case, what does this, let's say, day-to-day collaboration, or what does an effective collaboration look like between a recruitment marketing team and the recruitment team?
I'm going to be politically incorrect, I guess, here. Everyone knows there's so much friction trying to collaborate with recruiters, in every single company. You will hear war stories every day, right? And I think it's due to it culturally, it's so different, right? That's what I felt like. Recruitment teams sometimes are under so much pressure, right? They have to juggle with so many things and tools and stakeholders, which, yeah, it's a tough job, right? Someone might say, but it's an easy job, anyone can recruit. I mean, technically, it's not programming, so I have to agree with that But on the other side, it takes a toll. So on that end, culturally has always been challenging, right? To kind of like you just said, help them satisfy the demands, because sometimes they get non-reasonable demands to satisfy, which cannot be so. But in my experience, I think the number one key to success to work with them is enablement. And that is something so much, they are the tip of the spear for everything that you do on employer branding or recruitment marketing. So if you don't enable them, if they don't know the script by the book, if they don't know exactly what is your vision for recruitment marketing, the messaging, the EVP, the design, if they don't, at the end of the day, they are the ones executing. They are the ones posting on LinkedIn and doing interviews and selecting candidates and sending them emails. So it's key for them to just be from day one when they join the company to know the tools, right? Which is a problem because again, they have to juggle with so many things and they have so many stakeholders to answer to. And sometimes they overlook that and say, okay, just give me something that I can copy paste into a LinkedIn message and just I'll get on with my day, which is understandable because they have so many things to do. So yeah, it's a balance, right? For them, quality versus quantity in terms of their daily tasks. But yeah, invest as much time and resources as you can on enablement and good enablement, not just, hey, here's a doc and read it and exit. No, good quality enablement that people can internalize.
Got it. Talking about enablement, let's say if I am a recruiter and I'm working with your team, where do we start? So I know I have a role to fill or a series of roles to fill within one particular function, and I will need your support, your team support in
Mhm.
making sure I'm able to attract the right kind of people, the right kind of persona. Where does this process start? What's the first thing that you or your team usually ask for or demand for from the recruitment team before you start your own efforts?
So, for example, I mean, based on my experience and the way we work with my teams, we will have like a sort of toolbox, right, for every recruiter to have all, from messaging templates to social media designs to PDFs with, explanatories, that sort of thing, just the very, very basics. But also what was very successful is to keep them engaged and ask them for feedback and include them into the process. So let's suppose that we are designing a new campaign to attract, I don't know, Java developers in India. Okay, but not any part of India. Let's say we're opening new offices in Kochi, right? Not instead of Bangalore, but some rather peripheral city, not as big as Bangalore. Okay, how do we do it? Uh, you need to rely on recruiters, and sometimes we will do small, projects, branding projects like these, and we'll get their input, and it's like, teach me and I'll try it. Let me do it and I will understand it. So that's the whole philosophy. So we will always try to get them involved so they can, okay, I can see, so they can understand why we are doing what we are doing. Because usually not prejudice, yeah, maybe that's the right word. Maybe the prejudice for some people is that, oh, you're an employer branding. All you do is just do nice designs for us to share on LinkedIn, and that's it. That's why you exist. Not really, but again, they need to have the time to understand the why. Um, does that make sense?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Diving deeper on that, so I understand. So I myself come from the startup ecosystem. I work for the last 5 years. I have myself been working with a growth stage startup, and the challenge, the biggest hiring challenge, I should say, that startups face is about the brand awareness, of course, because when you're just starting off, some people who have already associated with you or interviewed with you, of course, they would still know about you a bit, but to tap into a larger talent pool, it does become one of our biggest challenges. But for established giants like that of an IBM or a Workday, I'm very curious to know, what does a talent branding or a recruitment marketing challenge look like for companies of that size? Because brand awareness is definitely not a challenge. People do know about them for sure. But I would love to know, what does a talent brand challenge look like for companies of that size?
It depends. If you go to a university these days and you ask young people about IBM, they don't know it. They do have a brand, companies like IBM,
Yeah.
they do have we had a brand challenge in that sense. But yeah, absolutely. The numbers of job applications and job openings that we will have per year are just monstrous. So actually one of our problems was that we had too many job applications. We need to actually introduce some friction into the process because this is just too much, more than any human can process in terms of number of applications and CVs. So yeah, I mean, uh, the problem, the difference between speaking about that from a more strategic point of view, the main thing is how you allocate budget and how do you spend your dollars wisely. So, for example, in the case of a young startup, that your main problem is people don't know you, so you need to sprint some, promote your brand. You need to put yourself out there. Of course, you're going to burn a lot of dollars in just promotions, right? Which is fine, but you're not expecting any big ROI or immediate ROI of that. And everything has, it needs to have some time to sell, to mature. Everything that you do promotion wise will take effect in maybe 6 months from now. So that's how it works. But then once you are in a big company like Microsoft or IBM or Workday or any of the other tech giants, or maybe not so big, but known players, every dollar that you spend is going to be accounted for. So it has to be way more strategically spent considering the ROI. So for example, will I spend some time and some efforts in doing Instagram reels or paid media on social media or some paid ads on Google or Reddit or whatever? Probably not, right? Will I spend some money in very strategic campaigns on LinkedIn? Yes, because that's where I get most of my applications from LinkedIn. Right. So that's the main, I think that's the main difference. Which channels do you use? Just the usual suspects. This is not rocket science. We all know, about social media and promotions and internet. So programmatic, just the usual. But I think that's the main difference, right? Again, depends on the company. In our case, I can only speak for IBM when we said that one of the challenges was that on one side, yes, we had very low brand awareness on campus because young people, they don't know IBM anymore. But on the other side, we had too many. So I don't need any more promotions. I don't need any more social media. I'm done with that. I had enough job applications for me to worry about. So, um, does that make
Yeah.
sense? Yeah.
Yes, yes, absolutely. In fact, the second thing that you mentioned, I'm just coming up with another follow-up question on that, which is about getting surplus applications. And
Mm.
that does happen in certain cases. Could be because, of course, the brand is big. So many people definitely aspire to work with the company. And the second case could be, of course, the brand is big, but there are certain kind of roles for which there is a lot of talent available in the market. And there is always somebody seeking out for another opportunity in this kind of a role. So do you think a recruitment marketing team or an employer branding team can somehow step in and solve for this problem of having too many applications also? So getting applications, yes, there's a lot you can do. You can run campaigns and so many initiatives. But to also narrow down the quality of applications, is that something a recruitment marketing team can influence?
Uh, I think you can help, but that is more of a process thing within talent acquisition, I guess. Depends on whether you own or not, how much ownership do you have on that, and how closely do you work with the recruitment team. So, for example, one of the effects that you might have when having too many job applications is the candidate black hole, right? Where you have, 1,000 job applications for a single role, and as a candidate, I get ghosted, right? I don't get it because there's just not enough time to just go through everyone's profile, and sometimes the automatic disposition processes are a bit crappy. Yeah, the experience suffers on that end. But usually that whole process is usually, done within TA, right? It's not owned by recruitment. How you can help, you can consult with data and say, okay, this is the status, this is how many job applications, jobs are we having. These are some, industry, good examples on disposition messages, on let us know how we can help you with that. But usually it is talent acquisition, the process, right? There are some things that you can control and some things that you cannot control. So, for example, after all of these massive layoffs, seasons that we've had through tech, in the entire world, you can see that job applications skyrocketed, of course, right? And there are some jobs that are always going to be, so for example, I don't know, assembler developers versus front end developers. We are swimming in front end developers, and there are not so much job applications in the market for that, right? So yes, it depends on some specific skill areas where you as a recruitment marketing, you can consult. In fact, I remember we were divided by, some big companies are divided by business units or skill areas. But if you ask me, historically, it's tricky. That the whole having too many job applications, and how do you solve for that? That's usually within the TA process, right? Once, I think my philosophy is, your job as a talent marketer is to get job applications in, jobs in the funnel. And usually that's where your job stops, where responsibility stops. Once they're in the machine, that's on TA. And how you work and how you consult with them, then that depends on each company.
Okay, all right. And since we were also speaking about the budgetary challenges that could come at different stages of a company or could differ from the company's one stage to another, do you have any top of the mind examples or tactics which could be like a low cost or no cost tactics for our listeners to get the employer branding efforts rolling? Because a lot of times when you're scaling fast, you're on a tight budget as a company. And again, because I was talking about the whole startup ecosystem, a lot of time there's so much money to spend on so many things and limited funds. Are there any low cost, no cost tactics for it?
Low cost, let me think about it, because there's some high cost, right? So for example, LinkedIn is expensive, right?
Yeah.
LinkedIn is quite expensive to run campaigns on that, but other social media platforms are not so expensive. You have a lot more wiggle room with your budget, but are they effective? I haven't remembered running campaigns on Facebook, on Meta, Instagram. They didn't work that good. What I saw in the past couple of years, some great results, was Google Ads search, the search console. That is working really, really good, right? Even way better click-through rate and actual ROI, way better than social media. Again, low cost. The tricky thing is you decide how much you pay for this. But in terms of cost per click, I will lean on Google, which was performing quite good, at least for in my latest job in Workday. But that was doing really good. Then you have no cost. So, for example, at IBM, we developed a a newsletter, right? That I see a lot of companies are starting to replicate now. I don't want to brag about it, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think I started that thing. I think that we started with that. And if you have a proper, email marketing tool or CRM, cost you nothing to send a newsletter, right? And that gave me so much the open rates, the click-through rates, and the applications. Even though we didn't promote any jobs, the job applications we got from those were just massive. And it was just putting some good content on an email. That's it. Costs you nothing. So I think those were my two preferred tactics. Then you can try, I can tell you that, again, my experience, I might be wrong. We tried some Stack Overflow ads. They didn't work that good. We tried some Reddit ads, mixed results, didn't work that good. Twitter at that moment before the Elon Musk era was doing okay, not wow, but it was okay, because tech talent, if you had to choose like one social media platform that they're more active into, would be Reddit or Twitter. That's it. Or X. Sorry. But yeah,
Got it.
sorry. Summarizing, Google Ads and in newsletters, I will start with those two.
That's a great example, and I'm glad you brought up the newsletters reference as well. And definitely, the wherever the credit is due, you should definitely have that for it. Because to be honest, I am myself aware of the IBM newsletters, because I think few years ago when I was just venturing into employer branding space, to be honest, IBM and Indeed were the organizations whose newsletters, standard newsletters precisely, I was looking up to. And I realized, I mean, of course, these organizations are big, they have larger teams to manage different aspects of content, either visual or written. But the way it was being targeted to different cohorts was just crazy, because you have engineers, you have salespeople, marketing people, customer success, and it was being personalized for each one of them separately, which is, I'm sure, a great way to approach talent.
Yeah, and again, that depends on the tool that you have. So if you have a CRM that allows you to do that
Yeah.
segmentation, and then that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think there are a certain misconceptions that many companies have about employer branding?
Misconceptions.
Yeah,
Well, I think I mentioned one earlier that not companies but recruiters they think that all you do
yeah,
are thing you do is just pre-designed. So you just do the campaign and the photography and that's it. That's all you do. You're a design team. And no, it's way more complex than that. Is strategizing, it's bringing TA and recruitment techniques all coming down together. That is one misconception. The other one is that you're a recruiter, which you're not.
right.
Although I worked, hand to, side by side with recruitment team, I have never been a full-time recruiter. So that might be another misconception. I'm saying that because again, if you go to a tech conference and you speak to a bunch of developers, for some reason, everyone hates recruiters. They are the enemy, right? Maybe
Yeah.
because they get flooded with messages all day. Maybe because they had some bad experiences they hate them. So they don't want to see recruiters. It's a cliche. We know it's kind of like a jokey type of way of this clash of cultures. But yeah, for us, I think the big one is that we are maybe unappreciated, the unappreciated work that we do. The only thing that gets seen is just the visual, like the end result, the campaign, the nice, recruitment video that you did, and okay, that's all you did. No, there's way more things, going down the road. So yeah, that's a big one for me.
Yeah, what you spoke about the recruiters, hard truth, but I have to agree to it. That happens.
Again, it's not up to me. Just go to a tech conference, speak with a bunch of tech people, and that's what they tell you.
Right. Mariano, so I know a few questions before we were talking about a few sources of recruitment marketing, and when you were speaking about certain social media platforms, I know you have already shared about certain platforms that you have experimented with. Either these are under the Meta name or LinkedIn or something like a Stack Overflow. So since you have worked with all of these different platforms, I would love to understand from you, are there any of these which precisely work better than the rest? I know LinkedIn is one, which is, of course, a professional network. That's a go-to platform for most of the organizations. But the whole thing about using a TikTok or an Instagram, do you think there are certain kinds of companies whose nature of business could be relevant or certain roles could be relevant to search on Instagram? Let's say if I'm saying that, okay, if I'm hiring engineers, okay, go to Stack Overflow maybe or a GitHub. But if you're hiring design people maybe go to Instagram because they would like to flaunt what their work is. Has any sort of bifurcation like that worked for you for different tools, for different roles?
Yeah, I mean it depends. If you're using the shotgun approach, what you asked me before, which are in general the most effective, yes, I will say Google Ads and and LinkedIn. Those are going to, or newsletters. Those are going to be low cost and effective. But then if you going to attract specific like sniper approach to specific talent, here's the tricky thing. Instagram, TikTok, they're really, really popular, right? I think those are the two most popular apps or social media. But creating content and creating video is time consuming and it is expensive. So how is that sustainable in time? That's number one. That's why, for example, we never got into really TikTok. We never needed it because it's editing video. It's hard. Even if it's a short and relatively simple video, it takes quite a lot of time. Second, you're not in the mood. That's my even. Let's go with a cliche route. We're on this cliche things. So let's suppose that I'm trying to attract designers or UX, designers. Okay, I think Instagram is the most visual platform, so that will be my go-to place. And maybe you click, maybe you see a reel, you see an ad, and you see, hey, we are hiring. You just join our team. You're not in the mood. You are on Instagram. You are on the bus. You are in the toilet. You are in somewhere. You're not in the mood to start a job application, right? It's just not the mode you're in at that moment. It depends so much on how you consume that platform. When you're on LinkedIn, you're probably as well on desktop as well. So you're probably on the job application mode. So if you ask me, software engineers, yes, go to LinkedIn. Don't go to Stack Overflow. That's a misconception because, oh, Stack Overflow, that's a tech platform. Yeah, but they're there to solve a problem, not to apply for a job. You're interrupting them. They're there to looking for an answer. Don't interrupt them. You're rude. Don't do that. So that's, you need to read the mode, you need to read the culture, and you need to read the room and how that the content is consumed culturally. Each social media platform is different. Linked Twitter, maybe yes, maybe Twitter is a bit of a blur these days, so I don't really know. Uh, uh, but that's the sense that I'm feeling. If you're looking for cybersecurity engineers, go to IRC channels, go to somewhere else. You will not find them on, maybe on LinkedIn, maybe, but not on any social media platforms. They're not in there. Does that make sense? It's a combination of, yes, there's these, go-to platforms depending on the profile, but it's also, I haven't seen any good results from LinkedIn or TikTok on actual job applications, like measuring to ROI. Maybe it's good for brand awareness. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But for ROI, are you going to really start a job application while you're on Instagram scrolling through? Probably not.
Yeah, agree. That's a great insight. Also, especially what you mentioned about platforms like Stack Overflow, because of course we speak a lot about when in the recruiters communities that if you're hiring, hire from Stack Overflow, GitHub, and similar platforms. Maybe for recruiters it's a different approach, but when it comes to recruitment marketing specifically, even I was curious if really if somebody, a developer on those platforms sees an ad, would they really be keen to go there and start an application really and explore a role? So that's a good insight for me and a new one.
Depends as well on the company, right? There are some company that I mean, you don't need an ad to sell a Ferrari, right?
Yeah, yeah,
If I'm a software developer, maybe you will need to convince me to join a company like IBM or maybe some other top of the mind player, but Google, AWS, those are no-brainers for a
yeah.
seasoned, software developer. So you don't even need an ad for that, right?
Absolutely. Understood. Okay, cool. I am also really curious to know because I'm sure in your career you have run so many campaigns on different platforms for different roles for different goals of recruitment marketing for sure. Some for bringing in more applications, some for brand awareness, very similar to how we do for product marketing as well, right? Have you had any personal experiences with either any of your own campaigns or something that you might have seen any other team, any other company do in terms of hiring campaign really blowing up in an amazing way?
Yeah, once those are like once in a lifetime things that you do that done a long time ago with IBM. What was this? 2017? Something like that. I don't remember the year right now. But we had some budget to do something different, and we ran a campaign called the IBM Vault, and it was an ARG to attract cybersecurity talent. So in ARG, it's called an alternate reality game. It's like a sort of digital experience where you mix both fictional and non-fictional elements to combine a story and to play a game, right? It's like a sort of like digital puzzles scattered all throughout the internet. Like go to this website and scroll the code and you will find a number. Oh, that's a telephone number. You need to call that number that actually exists. And, an answer machine will tell you, go, hey, and do this and do that. And you will create fake websites for people to kind of like follow the breadcrumbs and all that stuff and meet different types of things. So we did something like that with IBM with a leaderboard. It had like a countdown on the website. It was a time fixed competition for people to solve the puzzles in the least amount of time, and it was really really fun, really cool. And I did no paid promotion, no nothing. We just posted it on LinkedIn and Twitter at that moment and Facebook. And that was it. This was an experiment, and for some reason they posted it on Reddit, and it blew up on Reddit on these subreddits for ARGs and puzzles. And oh my God, we got so many people enrolled for the game. It blew up. Completely organic, just because someone posted it on Reddit and people took interest on that. And we ended up winning an award that year for that experience. So it was a really, really, really cool. And it ended up with an actual face-to-face inside competition in Boston, right? Where people will meet and they will meet the protagonist. It was a character in, this game. So that's an example. And I think the key takeaway from that is that if the content is good, you don't need any promo. If something is really cool and people really, really like it, you don't have to like them. They have to like them. So this was very appealing for that type of curious, investigative mind of the cybersecurity engineer. So it was a great success.
Yeah.
So that's an
That does
example.
that does sound really cool. I mean, it's almost like a virtual treasure hunt.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
That's another way of putting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds super interesting. Thank you for sharing that example. That's an amazing one. Another question that comes to back of my mind is it's slightly, I mean, so moving away slightly from recruitment marketing, this one that I have is more towards talent branding, where we speak of employee advocacy. Now, when there are different people on the team, a lot of them have had good experiences. Let's say they always have a good word of mouth to spread about their team, their manager, or the company's culture and everything. But when it comes to also expressing of it on social media channels, it does become tricky for a lot of team members because not everybody is adept at writing content, a lot of content, or creating content. Not everyone can make it a lot flowery and put out a post on LinkedIn. Are there any ways that you think, either in a way where you might have already experienced this in your previous roles, or any ideas that you have where recruitment marketing teams or employer branding teams can complement the efforts of internal team members into becoming brand ambassadors naturally without making it like a forced fit effort?
Yeah. Well, that one is a tricky. That's a tricky one because it depends so much on the size of your company, right?
Mhm.
And the culture of your
Yeah.
company. So, for example, at IBM, we had to hire an entire platform just to record videos from employees because we had so many, right?
Yes.
We use Altru. I think now it's part of iSIMS. Again, it's an internal content gathering platform. There's a bunch of platforms like these right now. So the one part is the scale of your company. How many employees do you have? Because that's how much content are you going to gather, right? And how do you herd them? And how do you compile that content? But at the end of the day, my experience is that it is challenging to encourage people to proactively or constantly contribute with content because everyone's busy. It's time taking out of their days. Usually you have to create some kind of like a reward system, or just whatever you have in your company, some swag or giveaways or points or cash back or uh, that will it's same as referrals. It's the
Yeah.
same. It will work. But there's some easy wins and there's some more. So for example, for Instagram, what we did with IBM was like, let's say Shivani, you are an IBM employee and you have your Instagram profile public and you posted some IBM photo on your Instagram and it was cool. It was a nice photo. I will say, hey, Shivani, can I just share your photo on our Instagram account? You say, yeah, all good. All right, we'll do it. Just write me a caption, and that's easy. That's an easy win. That's just content that is already done. You don't have to create it. It's just that's something really trying to organically gather content from employees, for example,
Mhm.
on Instagram or Twitter, retweet employees. That's easy win. But then you go to the most complex part, like let's say I want to write a technical blog to attract tech talent. That's a bit more complex. You need to find the right person, the right topic, get them to write a blog, which is not a 5 minute thing. So it's so tricky. It depends so much on the company size, on your culture. I know some companies that creating content, and contributing to that is just almost part of your job, right? So I think it will be something interesting that I always wanted to implement. It's like, how can I put this not into the contract? That's not the right way of wording it, but it's part of your job is to kind of like give back, some in some way, some content. That would be interesting, but it's too complex because it depends on the company, depends on the size, the type of content. There are some easy wins and some hard wins. So yeah, but a reward system, that's a must have for me. People will not do this for free just because of how I like it. No, they don't have time.
Yeah, that's a really good advice because even in some conversations that I would have had with my peers, when I say peers, I mean the other people in the people success space, recruiters, employer branding professionals. This is one of those challenges that we do definitely speak about. That okay, how do we make our team members be influenced to naturally create content? Can we build a repository? Can we share something with them? There's always that risk of what if they think we are trying to force it? Okay, here it's something, you should post it. It should have definitely come naturally to them.
That for sure, that doesn't work. That tactic that every company uses, stop it right now. Like, hey, retweet our company content, reshare it. No, People won't do it. People don't care. My family and friends, I love them. They love me. They don't care about what IBM is doing or Workday or my company. They don't care. And I will not occupy my timeline space with that. Just don't force it. Don't do it. You want people to share your content? Post cool content. People will do it organically. And I do it with a bunch of companies that I'm not an employee of, but I do follow, like GitLab. I love content that GitLab posts up. You want to do that? Right. Post something worth sharing. That's it. Don't force it, because that's going to be even worse, because the next time that you have something really good to share, people won't do it.
That's a
Yeah.
great advice. Yeah,
Stop
absolutely
it.
second that.
Marketing teams, stop that. Don't force it.
Cool. So, Mariano, we have spoken about some of the cool tactics that work, low cost, no cost tactics that work. You have also shared a really cool example about a campaign that worked out very well for you. On the flip side, have you ever come across a certain habit by maybe any companies or hiring campaigns, maybe that you would have seen, hiring ads that you see that come across more like a red flag than something that would work for that company? Have you ever come across any sort of hiring pitch that you think would rather turn candidates away than men?
Maybe, yeah. So I'll share two. One example is a very broad, which is my most number one complaint or pet peeve about employer branding, which is every company saying the same thing. And it's like, okay, I'll get this ad and I will change from Accenture to IBM or and it will work anyway. Everyone's saying, oh, we are the disruptors. We do things different. And all the usual marketing taglines that I have. Stop it. I mean, why? That for me, and again, tech talent, it's a very critical thinking population. They've seen everything. They know all the tricks. They get bombarded with recruitment messages every day. So stop it. Try to do something original for once. That's something that every company is doing, at least the big ones and the smaller ones as well. The one example that I can't forget, and I'm sorry again, I don't want to name and shame companies. I won't say the name, but everyone knows what happens. What happens, so I'll say it anyway. So when Amazon created this video about the it was like a mindfulness booth inside a warehouse where people can go inside and take some courses in a screen. It was like a telephone booth inside, and they were promoting this. We are improving our employees well-being, and they can now have a mindfulness training. And it was so depressed. It was so bad. They had to delete it. They had to roll back on it. Was a big one. It was a couple of years ago, and it was so bad. They got so much heat for that. That's a very specific example that I can think of. But honestly, companies, they don't realize how much candidates are being put off by just sharing the same safe message all over again, and that doesn't say anything. That's for me, a very off-putting. Again, imagine if you had to look for a job, right? And you start to scroll through websites, like, who's getting my attention? Where am I reading something original, something, oh, you know what, I really want to be part of that. So the other more recent example was Elon Musk with his whole X takeover and the type of message that people resigning and say, okay, this is going to be the mode we're working on right now. And it's just, if you're coming here, you're going to be exploited. You're going to be working very, very hard, long hours, and that's it. That's another quite example. It wasn't a campaign per se, but it was a mission statement that a lot of people resign. You know what happened. So yeah.
Cool. Thank you for all the examples, for references, for the wisdom around recruiter marketing, talent marketing, employer branding. Before we wrap up this conversation, I would love to ask you, for our listeners, that if there's one or maybe more if you would wish to share, but at least one talent marketing metric that you would want every company to track, what do you think that should be?
Yeah, job views to applications. I will die on that hill. So the usual problem that the usual metrics that companies will measure are going to be maybe time to hire or time to apply, time to fill, that sort of thing. And how many applications are you getting to your job? Right? Or you're getting no job applications, but no one, because probably in many cases because of an ATS restriction, they don't get the job views to job applications. So yes, you're not getting job applications, but let's take it let's take this even further. Are people viewing your job? No. So that's why. Your problem is not you're getting job applications. Your problem is you're people not finding your job, right? Or maybe you're getting a lot of job views, but no job applications. Then there's a problem with the JD, probably, for sure. So that will give you a very good quality ratio of your talent marketing efforts, the job views, the ratio of job views to actual job applications. To me, that has been a very useful metric that I've been implementing in the last couple of years, and it's very helpful to kind of like take the pulse on your talent marketing efforts and how you're doing specifically with job specific demand, right? So yeah.
Got it. That is an amazing takeaway to end this conversation. To everyone listening, I hope this episode gave you actionable ideas to strengthen your recruitment marketing efforts and the talent brand. If you enjoyed this conversation, do not forget to subscribe and share it with your network. Mariano, thanks again for joining us on the HR Club.
Thank you. It was fun.
Likewise.